it'll be almost like somebody handing you a gift and saying, you know what, if you use this thing, you would have a better life, better memory, you can think better, decreased osteoporosis, et cetera, and you go, no thanks, I don't want that. So it's basically how I look at exercise. It improves reasoning and reaction time, which is something that we actually associate with youth, isn't it? We think of that when you're young, you can think faster, think more clearly, and exercise actually has the ability to do that. Okay, sleep is hugely important, actually, for brain function. Recent studies shows that actually when you sleep, the brain is actually cleaning out a lot of those waste products that we talked about. And without sleep, inflammation actually increases, and so then we have increased risk of diabetes and heart disease, and actually anxiety. A recent study, I think this was done at UCLA, showed that when they did sleep deprivation on their study subjects, poor subjects, what they found out is that they were more anxious the next day, but more lethargic. That's got to be pretty crappy. You're super anxious, but you're too tired to really do anything about it. So now we talked a little bit about the brain, and I just wanted to talk about the body now. How do we support body health? So basically, we have a lot of tools, traditionally and integratively, to look at body health. One of the things that we like to do integratively, absolutely, is look at inflammatory markers, because it's been shown that inflammation seems to be behind many, many illnesses. Whether we're talking about cancers or cardiovascular disease or strokes or dementia or Alzheimer's, inflammation is implicated in all of those things. We look at blood sugar management markers, and that includes not just blood sugar, but insulin. We found that when either of them are out of balance, they create significant inflammation and actually increase our risk of other diseases, which include Alzheimer's disease. So bone health markers. And again, we think about the DEXA scan, which is an important bone health marker, but did you know also that you can see the bone turnover rate? And if we did a urine sample, there's a test that we can do to show how quickly your bone is turning over or breaking down. And then hormonal health markers, of course. Many of us are into hormonal health, and that's important. So, how do we create a healthy body? And here I have to admit, I have more than 3 or 4 things. Nutritional balance is important. Exercise, optimistic thoughts, the same thing that affects the brain affects the body. Stress management, healthy relationships are so important, especially, it seems, for women. We know that married men live longer, but interestingly enough, it's showing that married women only live longer if they're in good relationships. It doesn't quite work the same way. So it seems when women bond, there's a whole different neurochemistry that's happening with them. And so sometimes we need to look at that as well. So healthy relationships are important. Healthy environment, and that simply means relationships can be toxic foods, exposure to things that some we might have control over, some we may not have control over, and then healthy hormonal balance. So optimism, we talked a bit about. It does the same thing for the body that it does for the brain, okay? There was a study done at University of Wisconsin, and what they did was they gave the flu shot to 2 separate sets of groups. They encouraged one of them, and they kind of gave them a script to read about optimism and thinking about being optimistic and positive thoughts, and then they gave a negative script to the other group. And what they found out 6 months later, that the optimistic group actually formed more antibodies against the flu virus. So what that's telling us is actually showing us that optimism impacts immunity. Decreases risk of heart disease, increases longevity, and most importantly, speeds up recovery. So if you do happen to get sick, which you probably will, since we're all human here, we can't possibly prevent everything, it actually can help to speed up recovery.